After enduring months of loneliness and sadness in the shelter, what unfolded next was nothing short of astonishing. Dogs rank among the world's most common household pets, and it's easy to understand why they capture people's hearts. With their endearing appearances and unwavering loyalty, these furry companions are truly hard to resist. However, not every dog gets to enjoy a lifelong bond with their family. Take, for instance, the story of a shelter dog who endured months of loneliness and sadness before something extraordinary occurred. The United States, being one of the largest countries globally, boasts a population of millions, including countless canine companions. In most cases, these pets are cherished members of their families, residing in loving forever homes across the nation. Regrettably, this isn't always the reality, as one particular dog knew all too well. Trove, a pit bull cross with a charming disposition, embodied the epitome of a sweet-natured canine companion. His coat featured a blend of tan and white hues, and despite the often unfavorable reputation associated with pit bull breeds, Trove was a paragon of calmness and affection. When his owner first brought him into their home, Trove anticipated a life filled with love and care from his new human family. Initially, everything appeared to be going swimmingly. As a young and exuberant puppy, he relished his new surroundings, believing that life couldn't possibly get any better. However, as Trove matured and grew in size, a perplexing change overtook his owner. The man who had once showered the pup with love and attention began to exhibit an unsettling aloofness. Trove found himself bewildered, unable to comprehend why his owner no longer wanted to engage in play or express any affection towards him. Trove tried everything to get his human's attention. He would jump up on the sofa for a cuddle, only to be knocked back down onto the floor. The canine would also follow his owner around the house and steal items, such as socks, in an effort to get the man to play chase or tug of war with him. But try as he might, Trove simply couldn't get his owner to love him the way that he used to. As time went on and Trove got bigger, the dog found himself being left to his own devices more often. One day, the young canine watched as his human packed a bunch of boxes into his car. Trove didn't understand what was going on, but he had always loved going for rides in the car, so he tried to jump in after the boxes. But before the animal could do so, his human quickly grabbed hold of his collar and shoved him back inside of the house. He then took Trove's leash and tied it to the animal's collar before tying him up to the staircase. With the dog locked inside, the man then got into his car and drove off, leaving him. Trove whined and cried at the front door, hoping that the man would come back. After a few hours waiting, though, the poor canine got tired and decided to lie down. He was used to being left on his own, but he still didn't like it. Being tied up meant that Trove couldn't go anywhere, so he decided to go to sleep in the hopes that by the morning, his owner would have returned. But morning arrived, and the dog's owner was nowhere in sight. This continued for the next few days. The entire time, Trove waited patiently for his master, but sadly, he never returned. As time went by, the dog began to get weaker and weaker. In an effort to call for help, the animal began barking at the front door, as if trying to call for someone's help. Luckily, one of the neighbors must have heard the animal, and knowing that the owner had moved away, was worried about the health of the dog. The neighbor called some animal rescue workers and told them about the situation. An investigation was opened into the dog's welfare, and volunteers went to investigate the abandoned house. Once there, they found 5-year-old Trove tied to the stair banister. At the sight of the people, the poor pup immediately began to wag his tail in happiness. He was so relieved that someone had finally come to help him. After thoroughly investigating the house to make sure that the occupant had actually left, the volunteers untied the dog and loaded him up into their car. They took the animal to the Humane Society of Memphis and Shelby, otherwise known as the HSMSF for short. Once at the shelter, Trove was given an evaluation by their vet. It was determined that the animal was thankfully in an okay condition, although there were a few problems that needed to be addressed. The dog was covered in fleas, as his owner hadn't bothered to treat him for quite a while. As well as that, the poor pup was quite emaciated and dehydrated. He would need a lot of TLC to help him get back to full health. During the first week, the shelter worked on bringing Trove's health back up to an acceptable level before even thinking of putting the canine up for adoption. They wanted to make sure that there were no other unseen health problems and that the dog would be perfectly healthy after being fed a little bit. Thankfully, after the week, it was clear that the pit bull cross was happily putting on weight again. He would eat all of his food at meal times and loved to have a treat when the volunteers stopped by his kennel. In only a few short days, Trove had managed to win over all of the members of staff with his adorable personality. Contrary to what people might think about pit bulls, with the most common idea being that they are a vicious breed, Trove was the complete opposite. This cute little pup was incredibly sweet, and he had a calm and loyal disposition, which would make him the perfect pet for a family. However, when he was finally put up for adoption, it seemed that nobody was interested in this loving canine. Over the course of 7 months, prospective adopters came and went, and each and every one of them passed over Trove time and time again. The shelter staff were heartbroken for the dog. He had been through so much, and they all wanted to see him find his forever family. Instead, he was left lonely and sad for several months. But then something amazing happened. Morgan and Tyler were a newly married couple who both loved animals. Sadly, Morgan had recently lost her boxer, who she had owned for 13 years. But despite her loss, she knew that she wanted a new four-legged friend to join her family. The couple both decided that they wanted to adopt a dog, as they wanted to give love to an animal looking for a second chance. They traveled to the Abandonment, and that was when they met Trove. Upon laying eyes on the pit bull, love instantly blossomed in the couple's hearts, and they instinctively knew what they needed to do. Within minutes of their encounter with the pup, they embarked on an extraordinary journey. With unwavering determination, they completed all the necessary paperwork and officially welcomed him into their lives. They lovingly christened the pup as Samsung, affectionately calling him Sammy for short. Sammy, the adorable pup, remained blissfully unaware, fast asleep when his new parents discovered him, completely oblivious to the loving home that awaited him. A compassionate shelter staff member fondly recollected the heartwarming moment, sharing, "He's sleeping so peacefully, with no inkling that he's about to find his forever home." The couple gently roused the slumbering pup, and he greeted them with all the enthusiasm he could muster before embarking on his journey to a new home. From that day forward, Sammy has thrived in a life filled with happiness and boundless love, thanks to his devoted caregivers, Morgan and Tyler, who wouldn't trade their adorable canine companion for anything in the world. What a heartwarming tale. If you're considering adding a new furry friend to your family, why not reach out to your nearby animal shelter and offer a lonely soul a chance for a brighter future? Share your thoughts on this story in the comments section below. I hope you liked this video. Please give it a thumbs up and consider to share it with your friends and family. Also subscribe and press the bell icon to never miss the update from our channel. Thank you.